There are a few things in the world of gacha games that generate as much excitement as a major full-scale collaboration with a beloved franchise, and by all accounts, the Honkai Star Rail crossover with Fate Stay Night should have been one of the biggest, the most celebrated events of the year. The initial announcement was met with a huge wave of excitement from both communities too, and for many, this was a dream crossover. But as the event went live and the dust settled, the community's reaction was intensely divided. For every person excited about the new characters, there seemed to be another who felt let down, disappointed, and in some cases, genuinely disrespected. So was this collaboration a success, or was it the massive misfire that many fans are claiming it to be? Today I'm going to walk you through my entire experience with this event to try and answer that question. We will start with my own expectations going into it as a longtime Fate fan, and then we will do a full, spoiler-heavy recap of the story just so we are all on the same page. And after that, we will break down what went wrong with the narrative, look at the characters and the gameplay, and finally, judge the event as a complete package. So let's get into it. But before we get into it, let's talk about LD Shop so you can save up to 33% off your purchases. If you're tired of high prices in your in-game items, LD Shop is a game changer. It is a safe and reliable third-party top-up store. Why LD Shop for your Honkai Star Rail needs? Well, first of all, they offer incredibly affordable prices on all of your Honkai Star Rail essentials. From the express supply passes to the oneric shards, you can compare their prices and see the savings for yourself. This means more stellar jades, more pulls, and more ways to build your ultimate team. What is even better is how easy and secure it is. You don't need to hand over your game account credentials. Simply fill in your server and your game UID directly on the LD Shop site. Your top-up will appear in your game account in about 5 minutes. It is that fast and safe. And speaking of safe, LD Shop has a stellar 5-star rating on Trustpilot with tons of positive reviews praising their speed and reliability. Plus, they have a fantastic customer service system and a friendly community ready to assist you. But wait, there is more. As a special treat for our viewers, if you are a new user signing up through my link in the description below, you will receive a 15% and a 5% off coupon. That is a massive saving of up to $50. And for those dedicated trailblazers out there, if you spend over 80 USD in 1 month on LD Shop, you will get a free supply pass. That is right, a free supply pass for just topping up what you normally would. So make sure to claim it on the LD Shop homepage. So whether you're looking for those crucial express supply passes, need more oneric shards for your next pulls, or just want to get more value for your money, LD Shop is the place to go. Head over to the LD Shop today using my link in the description below, save big on your Honkai Star Rail top-ups, and elevate your gacha experience. Let's get back into the video. So before we get into the event itself, I think it is important you know where I was coming from. Now, to be honest, I was debating whether to even play or talk about this collaboration at all. I am a huge fan of the Fate series. I watched all of it, but my past experiences with Honkai Star Rail story quests have been quite horrible, to say the least. My main issue for me has always been the dialogue bloat, the sheer amount of text that feels like it goes nowhere. I was fully prepared to just skip this story and focus on the characters, but then I saw that the quest was only about 4 hours long. It wasn't like their recent 10+ hour yap fest, and I thought about it, you know, like 4 hours for an IP and a franchise that I genuinely love. The collab was hyped up for over a year. I mean, how could I say no to that, you know what I'm saying? It seemed like a reasonable time investment, so I decided to play it. But I went in with my expectations for the story set very low. I was preparing for more static images, black screens with white text, and conversation that would make me sleepy, but at the same time, there was a part of me that was hopeful. We were told that the people from Fate themselves, the original creators, the writers, had looked over the story and given it their okay. So I thought, it has to be at least better than usual, right? I had low expectations, but a little bit of hope. So with that mindset, I dove in. And now, before I give you my critique, let's just go over what actually happens in the story. This will be a full recap, so fair warning for spoilers ahead. Alright, so the story of the event, Sweet Dreams and the Holy Grail, kicks off with a pretty familiar premise for Fate fans. A Holy Grail war is beginning in Penacony, right? The idea is that different participants, called Masters, will summon heroic spirits, in this case, from Penacony's own history, to fight for the Grail. We were introduced to a few of these pairs right away. We have a character named Scott with an assassin servant. Robin is paired with a caster, Boothill has Lancer, and Adventurine shows up as the Master of Archer. Our character, the Trailblazer, gets involved and ends up summoning the main heroic spirit of the collaboration, Saber. When she appears, it's quickly established that she and Boothill's servant, Lancer, already know each other from the past war. This immediately suggests that this story takes place sometime after the events of the original Unlimited Blade Works. From there, the participants were pulled into a reality marble, which is just a magic created world world by the assassin servant. This world takes the form of an old black and white silent film, forcing everyone to communicate through subtitles while they face different challenges. A major turning point happens when Adventurine betrays his supposed ally, Scott. He reveals himself to be some kind of golden gatekeeper and starts a battle, which leads to our trailblazer Saber and Archer teaming up against him. Now later in the story, Saber gets trapped in an illusion created by Robin's caster servant. In this dream, she gets to live out a normal life, ordinary life, free from her duties as a hero. The trailblazer eventually helps Saber break free from this dream, and she accepts her destiny once again. The story ends with a big battle against a corrupted version of the Holy Grail, which Saber manages to destroy with her ultimate attack. In the aftermath, we find out that Lancer actually survived the whole war, which is a bit of a surprise, seeing how the Fate series usually go. But anyways, while the other servants return to where they came from, Lancer decides to stick around in Penacony. So that is the basic plot. A fairly standard Holy Grail war story with a few twists. On paper, it sounds fine, but the way this story was told, the execution is where everything falls apart. And that is what we need to talk about next. Alright, so we know the what. Let's talk about the how. Because this is where the experience moves beyond being a simple flawed story and becomes frankly insulting to the source material. It begins with the basics. When your character gets their command spells, these powerful magical seals that appear on their hand, the game just flashes a logo on the screen. And that's it. There is no weight, no impact, a core concept of the series reduced to a UI element. But it gets worse with the summoning ritual. In Fate, this is a sacred, tense, dramatic moment. It is the foundation of the entire franchise. In Honkai Star Rail, they turned it into a joke. They made the chant goofy. When the summon fails at first, they played this silly, cartoonish sound effects. It is as if the game is winking at you saying, "Oh, silly me, I failed the summon." Like what? It is a complete betrayal of the source material's tone. This continues with Saber's famous introduction. The iconic line is there, but the scene itself is so soulless. It is a hollow reenactment that has none of the magic or the atmosphere of the original. It feels like going through the motions. And after playing for nearly an hour to get to this point, it is just embarrassing. And this soulless feeling infects the entire script. The dialogue is just bloated. It is full of endless yapping that says almost nothing of substance. There is an early conversation that is so obviously trying to be the version of a tense, strategic discussion from Fate Zero. The original scene is a masterclass in tension. The version of this event is a boring, lifeless, bootleg imitation, a really cheap copy. The laziness becomes almost brazen. Now this is the point where I personally lost it. There is a scene where the character Robin literally looks at her caster servant, who is literally a generic, low-quality NPC model, and breaks the fourth wall to ask why she doesn't look more special. The game comments on its own lack of effort. And then I got reminded earlier. One of the characters said, the Holy Grail War will be about summoning legendary figures from Penacony's rich history and then bringing them to life. Which brings them an excuse to say that when caster's NPC model looks so bad, like in here, they can say, oh well, those are heroes from Penacony, not the Unlimited Blade Works world. I am so sure they thought this true so they can put less effort in their story, which is, to be honest, unsurprising. It is the Hoyoverse way, the cheapest way, am I right? It is shameless. But all of this, the goofy tone, the bloated dialogue, the lazy excuses, it all leads to the single biggest failure of the entire event, the ultimate insult. This collaboration is called Honkai Star Rail x Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. The one thing every fan was waiting for, or at least the one thing I was waiting for, was the moment that would have redeemed almost any flaw, was a story cutscene of Archer performing his Unlimited Blade Works chant. And it's not in the story. It is in his gameplay, yes, but in the narrative, where it's supposed to be the climax, where it's the entire namesake of the collaboration, it is completely absent. A collaboration named for Unlimited Blade Works that has no Unlimited Blade Works in its story. What? It is a hollow marketing exercise. Full stop. It's baffling. So what you're left with is a narrative experience that doesn't just feel flawed, it feels deliberately cheap, lazy, and deeply disrespectful to the material it is supposed to be celebrating. And as we're about to see, this feeling of being shortchanged wasn't just confined to the story. Looking at the collaboration as a whole product, you start to see a pattern of low effort and questionable decisions across the board.
とりあえず食事にしよう。
賛成です。お腹いっぱいになって2人とも落ち着いたみたい。やっぱり 食事の席は話し合いの場にぴったりね。気にしないで。空腹が満たされた人の幸せそうな笑顔を見るのが大好きなだけだから。
For an event that was hyped for over a year, the actual content felt remarkably thin. The maps and domains are recycled. We already talked about the reused NPC models. The main event gameplay mode itself just felt like a slightly upgraded version of the simulated universe, a mode that has been in the game for forever. There was very little that felt new or special here, and this feeling of standard procedure extended to the rewards and the overall structure of the event. The rewards you get for completing everything, they're fine, but that is all they are. It is the same amounts of stellar jades, the same materials you get from any other large patch event. For a major once-in-a-lifetime collaboration, there was nothing special to mark the occasion. The structure was also anticlimactic. There was no unique, memorable final boss decided for the collab, and Lancer, one of the 3 main crossover characters, was relegated to just being a non-playable NPC. He doesn't get a boss fight, he is not playable, he just sorta hangs around. It is an incredibly unsatisfying fate for such a key character. And then I don't think we talked about this. The silent film section of the middle of the story, where all of the characters are muted, it is presented as a quirky stylistic choice, but it feels much more like a low-budget loophole to avoid having to do more animation and voice work. And finally, we have to come back to the broken promise of the voiceover feature. The developers advertised a specific elegant solution to the lack of English voices, the individual language switching feature, and it just didn't work as they said it would. Unfortunately, it is not a small bug, it is a failure to deliver on a key feature promoted directly to the community. Another breach of trust. The developers lied again. So you have a thin event with recycled assets, standard rewards, anticlimactic character roles, and broken promises. It shows that the problems weren't just the scriptwriters, the lack of effort seems to have been project-wide. Looking at the personal experience, the failed narrative, and this lackluster event package, what is the final verdict? Let's be absolutely clear about one thing. The playable characters of Archer and Saber are genuinely great. Their kits are strong, their gameplay animations are well made, and on a mechanical level, they are excellent additions to the game. This part, the part they sell you, they got right. But that one positive is buried under a mountain of negatives. A disrespectful story that butchers iconic moments, lazy writing that feels like a first draft, cynical monetization schemes, broken technical promises, and a hollow, low-effort event structure that felt recycled from day one. And because of that, while the individual characters might be good, the collaboration as a whole experience is a failure. It's a failure because it treated a beloved, respected IP with a shocking lack of care. When you look at all of the evidence, it is hard to see this as a celebration of fate. It feels much more like a cynical, low-effort cash grab that used a famous name as bait. It is not a homage, it is an insult. So I will leave you with this final question. What matters more to you in a collaboration like this? Is it getting good playable characters? Or is it getting a respectful, well-made event experience that honors the source material? And where do you draw the line where one is sacrificed for the other? Let me know in the comments below. But that is all from me, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers. Go fuck yourself.